So let's start the chapter of calorimetry. Where is scoring? Very easy. Let's start doing it. Calorimetry. The first thing we need to know is the definition of 1 calorie. 1 calorie is defined as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water, not 1 kg, not 1 ton, not 1 liter, to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree centigrade. The amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree centigrade. But raising temperature of water by 1 degree centigrade do not always require exactly 1 calorie. It might require 0.998 calorie or it might require 1.006 calorie. So exactly the proper definition is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree centigrade, specifically from 14.5 to 15.5 degree centigrade. Calorie is again a unit of energy. The SI unit of energy is joule. 1 calorie equals to 4.18 joule. So look here and tell me which is a bigger unit of energy. Definitely calorie is bigger unit than joule. The easy way to remember this is that human beings report their energy consumption always in calorie. They choose a bigger unit to express it so that when they consume more, they will report it as less. Okay, 1 calorie equals to 4.18 joule. So based on this thing, a very simple question: how much heat is required to raise the temperature of 10 gram of water by 5 degrees centigrade? The only purpose of this simple question is to make you understand the definition of 1 calorie. The amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree centigrade is 1 calorie. 1 gram of water, 1 degree centigrade, 1 calorie. How much heat will be required to raise the temperature of 10 gram of water by 5 degree centigrade? So it's a simple unitary method. To raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree centigrade, we require 1 calorie. So as to raise the temperature of 10 gram of water, 10 times the amount of water by 1 degree centigrade, we will require 10 calorie. To increase the temperature of 10 gram of water by 1 degree centigrade, we will require 10 calorie. So as to increase it by 5 degree centigrade, so 1 gram, 1 degree centigrade, 1 calorie. 10 gram, 1 degree centigrade, 10 calorie. 10 gram, 5 degree centigrade, how much heat? So the answer is pretty simple. Answer is 50 calorie of heat will be required. Now let's move on to the definition of next term, that is specific heat. A specific heat is defined as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 kg of substance, here SI unit, 1 kg of substance by 1 degree centigrade. Now somebody might say this 1 degree centigrade is not SI unit. Obviously, the change of 1 degree centigrade is as good as change of 1 Kelvin. So I can restate this definition as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 kg of substance by 1 Kelvin, because the change of 1 degree centigrade is as good as change of 1 Kelvin. Now, let's say you have some body of mass m. When you provide it with some heat Q, the temperature rises by delta T. What is the specific heat? So what we used here, we can use the same thing here. Here the amount of heat required equals to mass of substance times the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram by 1 degree centigrade multiplied by the number of degrees centigrade by which you have increased the temperature. Similarly here, one can say that the specific heat has to be equal to Q by m delta T. The amount of heat required per kg per degree centigrade is called the specific heat. The amount of heat required per kg divided by number of kg per degree centigrade is the specific heat. We can rewrite this equation as Q equals to ms delta T. But in the world of physics, we define everything in the differential format. So the differential format of the same equation is dq equals to ms dt. Now here, understanding out each term, dq, the infinitely small amount of heat given, m, the mass of the body, s, the specific heat of the body, dt, the infinitely small rise in temperature of the body. So dq equals to ms dt. This is the differential equation of calorimetry. Now here, remember that both in physics as well as in chemistry, whenever heat is given to the system, it is treated as positive. Whenever heat is extracted from the system, it is taken as negative. So if heat is being given, take dq as positive. If heat is being extracted, then take dq as negative. Second thing, for any constant temperature process. What is the meaning of constant temperature process? Isothermal process are constant temperature process, as well as phase transformations are constant temperature process. If a solid converts into liquid or liquid converts into gas, at the melting point and at boiling point, the temperature remains constant till the time the conversion is taking place. So for constant temperature processes, that is isothermal and phase change, there is no change in temperature. Since there is no change in temperature, this quantity dt tends to 0. If this dt tends to 0, the specific heat comes out to be infinity. So remember that for constant temperature processes, the specific heat comes out to be infinity. The second important type we can discuss here only is what is the specific heat for an adiabatic process. The beauty of adiabatic process is that during the completion of adiabatic process, there is no heat exchange between the system and surrounding. Since there is no heat exchange, this quantity dq becomes 0. And since the quantity dq becomes 0, the specific heat of a gas undergoing adiabatic process has to be 0. So now, heat capacity. We have learned specific heat till now. Now, heat capacity. Heat capacity, denoted by C, is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of body by 1 degree centigrade. Which body, what size, how much mass? Any body. The amount of heat required to raise the temperature of any object by 1 degree centigrade is called the heat capacity of that particular object. Okay, the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of any object by 1 degree centigrade is called the heat capacity of that object. Okay. So now let's say there is some object. We don't know what is it. It might be a vessel, it might be water, it might be copper, it can be anything of any size. If we provided some heat and let's say temperature rises by delta T, we know that heat capacity is the heat supplied per degree rise in temperature. So heat capacity C equals to Q by delta T. So you can write Q equals to C delta T. This is the first thing. Again, second thing, in the world of physics, everything is defined in the differential format. So the actual definition is dq equals to C dt. That the infinitely small heat supplied to the body equals to its heat capacity times the infinitely small rise in temperature. Comparing this Q equals to C delta T with the last equation, that is Q equals to mass of the body times its specific heat times the delta T, we can say that heat capacity equals to mass times specific heat. Heat capacity equals to mass times specific heat. So now here a question, simple question. Think of a cup of water and a bucket of water. Think of a cup of water and a bucket of water. Which one has got more specific heat? Answer is specific heat is an intrinsic property, just like density. So it doesn't depend upon the amount of substance you have. So heat capacity is same, specific heat is same for both cup of water as well as bucket of water. Second question, heat capacity will be higher for which one? The cup of water or for bucket of water? The heat capacity equals to mass times the specific heat. So more the mass of the body, the higher is its heat capacity. So which one has more heat capacity? Answer is the bucket of water has got more heat capacity than a cup of water. The next terminology, the next thing which is assumed that you know it for sure, they might not give it in the paper as well, that is a specific heat of water. Why? Because the specific heat of water can be easily defined from the definition of 1 calorie. 1 calorie is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree centigrade. So the specific heat has to be amount of heat required Q upon m delta T. Heat required 1 calorie to increase the temperature by 1 gram of 1 gram by 1 degree centigrade. So the specific heat of water can be written as 1 calorie per gram degree centigrade. We know that we can replace 1 calorie with 4.18 joule, that is the conversion factor we have learned. So 4.18 joule per gram degree centigrade. Gram is not at all SI unit. Joule is degree centigrade is kind of Kelvin is, but when it comes to change, 1 degree change in temperature on centigrade scale and Kelvin scale is same. So in place of gram, we have to write kg. If I want here in place of gram kg, 1000 gram is 1 kg. So I have to multiply the denominator with 1000. It will be an illegal operation. You just can't multiply the denominator with 1000. You should also multiply at the same time the numerator with 1000. So you get 1000 into 4.18 joule upon 1 kg degree centigrade. This 4.18 joule into 1000 gives you 4.18 kilojoule. So the SI unit of specific heat, the specific heat of water in SI unit is 4.18 kilojoule per kg in degree centigrade. The next terminology we need to focus on is water equivalent. Water equivalent of a body is defined as the amount of water that will show the same rise in temperature for same heat input. So for example, I have got an iron sphere with me. I want to find its water equivalent. What is the meaning of it? Remove this iron sphere and in its place some water. If you give some amount of heat to this iron sphere and the temperature increases by some amount, for the same supply of heat in this water, you should get the same rise in temperature. So water equivalent of a body is defined as the amount of water that will show the same rise in temperature for same heat input. That's why it's called equivalent. So how to find the water equivalent of a body? Let's say we have a body of mass mb having specific heat sp. We provide it with some heat q, and because of this heat q, the temperature rises by delta T. The water equivalent of a body is the amount of water that should be placed so that it shows the same rise in temperature for same heat input. So for this body, I can write the heat given equals to mass of body into specific heat of body into delta T, Q equals to ms delta T. Similarly, for some mass of water to be its water equivalent, for the same heat input, it should also show the same rise in temperature. So for water as well, I can write the same equation. Equating heat on both the side and cancelling out delta T, we can say that the water equivalent of a body or the mass of water that should be placed is nothing but mass of body into specific heat of body upon the specific heat of water. Notice that this numerator part, mass of body into specific heat of body, is nothing but the heat capacity of this body. One simple question here. A calorimeter of water equivalent 10 gram contains 40 gram of water at 40 degrees centigrade. Determine the heat required to raise the temperature by 45 degrees centigrade. The only purpose of asking this question is to make you understand the importance of water equivalent. The calorimeter has got water equivalent of 10 gram. So don't even think as the calorimeter is made up of bronze, it has some mass, I don't care about it. They have told me that the water equivalent of this calorimeter is 10 gram. So I will treat the whole calorimeter exactly like water of 10 gram. And the calorimeter contains 40 gram of water. So the total water, because of calorimeter 10 gram, because of the water inside 40 gram, the total mass is 50 gram. Now, treat it like 50 gram of water, and you wish to increase the temperature of this 50 gram of water from 40 degrees centigrade to 45 degrees centigrade. We have just learned the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree centigrade is 1 calorie. So as to increase the temperature of 50 gram of water by 5 degrees centigrade, how much heat will be required? So M specific heat in terms of calorie per gram per degree centigrade 1 into delta T, that is 5. From 40 to 45, 5. So you get simply 250 calorie. So the most important thing, the type of question that come in any competitive examination from calorimetry are the mixing question. If this is mixed with that, what is the final temperature? So that type of question. In the questions of mixing, we can further categorize it into two things. One, without phase change, the one in which no phase change takes place. Another one in which the phase change takes place. The questions which are of without phase change, they are very pathetic and very easy question. We will practice 3-4 of them right now. The question with phase change are equally easy. You just need to have some patience and write down 1, 2, 3 steps. That's all. So this takes a little bit of time when it comes in paper. These type of questions are very, very easy. I know that your all pain point lies with this phase change question. Don't worry about it. We will learn a sure shot method how to get answer. But first thing first, it highly offends me when students don't realize this very easy important thing. If n number of substances are mixed, then the final temperature must be between the lowest and highest. For example, many a time a question come in test paper that water at 20 degrees centigrade, some amount 4 kg, 10 kg, any amount is mixed with water at 40 degrees centigrade. What is the final temperature? And I find some students giving answer as 60 degrees centigrade, 70 degrees centigrade, 80 degree, 82 degree. Arey bhai sahab, the final temperature must lie between 20 and 40. If rather than mixing these two, we mix one more thing, something at 100 degrees centigrade, then I can say the final temperature must lie between 20 and 100. The answer can't be more than 100, the answer can't be less than 20. For example, if they say some amount of ice at minus 5 degrees centigrade, some amount of water at 20 degrees centigrade, and some amount of steam at 120 degrees centigrade are mixed together, I am very sure the final temperature won't be less than minus 5 and won't be greater than 120. It must lie between the lowest temperature and the highest temperature. So in your objective paper, first of all, look at the option. Any option which doesn't lie within the range of lowest and highest temperature, that can't be the answer. Okay? Let's understand the mixing question without the phase change. Let's say we have got three substances. The first substance having mass m1, specific heat s1, having temperature t1. Second substance having mass m2, specific heat s2, temperature t2. Third substance m3, s3, t3. When they are mixed, how to find the final temperature? What I suggest here is that if they have said that these three things are mixed and no additional heat has been provided from outside or heat has not been extracted outside, then you can write the heat given to 1 plus heat given to 2 plus heat given to T3 equals to 0. What is Q1? Heat given to 1. What is Q2? Heat given to 2. What is Q3? Heat given to 3. And their sum has to be equal to 0 because you are not providing any heat from outside. But sir, what if let's say T1 is greater than both T2 and T3? Then this one will lose energy, it will give out heat, and the other two might take heat from it. Then how can you write that heat given to 1 is 0? But I haven't said that heat given to 1 is 0. I am saying that heat given to 1 plus heat given to 2 plus heat given to 3 has to be 0. If 1 gives out heat, then heat given to 1 will be treated as negative. Since 2 and 3 takes heat, let's say from 1, then the heat given to 2 and 3 will be positive. So in that case, Q1 will be negative and Q2 and Q3 might be positive, and they will add up to 0 if no external heat has been provided. So simply use heat given to 1 plus heat given to 2 plus heat given to 3 equals to 0. The heat given can be written as ms delta T. Delta T means change in temperature. Change in temperature is always final minus initial. So heat given to 1 will be written as m1 s1 t minus t1, heat given to 2 m2 s2 t minus t2, heat given to 3 m3 s3 t minus t3, and their sum has to be 0. Why I use this particular method rather than the method that is most commonly used, that heat lost by one equals to heat gained by another? Because if there is no external heat given, you write heat given to 1 plus heat given to 2 plus heat given to 3 equals to 0. But what if they say there are two substances, first having mass m1, specific heat s1, temperature t1, second m2, s2, t2, they are mixed. And in the mixing process, there is a loss of heat amount q dash. A q dash amount of heat has been lost by the system. Then how to write the equation? Then you write, if q dash amount of heat has been lost, then heat given to 1 plus heat given to 2 equals to minus q dash. If they are mixed as well as q dash amount of heat is given, then you will write heat given to 1 plus heat given to 2 equals to q dash. So here, since q dash amount of heat came out on mixing, you write q1 plus q2 equals to minus q dash. Sorry, I missed out that minus here, minus q dash. Okay. So heat given to 1 m1 s1 final minus initial plus heat given to 2 m2 s2 final minus initial equals to the heat given. Here heat is being extracted, that's why I wrote negative sign. So two questions for practice. Let's say we have got three containers containing water. 50 gram of water at 50, 30 gram of water at 30, and 20 gram of water at 20, and these three are mixed. We know that finally we are going to have 100 gram of water, but at what temperature? So we will say, since in this question they haven't mentioned heat has been given to system or has been extracted, we will simply write heat given to 1 plus heat given to 2 plus heat given to 3 has to be equal to 0. Let's say water has got specific heat as solution. Heat given to 1 from here till here will be m s delta T final minus initial. Heat given to 2 m s delta T final minus initial plus heat given to 3 m s delta T final minus initial has to be equal to 0. Cancel out s, 0, 0, 0. So you get 5T minus 250 plus 3T minus 90 plus 2T minus 40 equals to 0. 5T plus 3T plus 2T, that becomes 10T. On the right hand side, you get 250 plus 90 plus 40. 250 plus 90 plus 40 gives you 250 plus 130, that becomes 250 plus 130, that becomes 380. So the final temperature comes out to be 38 degrees centigrade. Now here kids, one thing. You might think that why he is using this method when we have already learned the method of m1 s1 delta, m1 t1 plus m2 t2 plus m3 t3 upon m1 plus m2 plus m3. That thing works only in the cases where the specific heat is same. If the specific heat of the substance being mixed are different, then you can't use m1 t1 plus m2 t2 plus m3 t3 upon m1 plus m2 plus m3. Next question. 10 gram of substance of specific heat, 5 calorie per gram degree centigrade at 40 degree centigrade is dropped in 50 gram of water at 20 degree centigrade. What is the final temperature? So the substance has got mass of 10 gram. The substance has got specific heat of, the substance has got mass of 10 gram. The substance has got the specific heat of 5 and initial temperature is 40. So substance has got mass of 10 gram, specific heat of 5, initial temperature 40. The water has got mass of 50 gram, initial temperature 20, and we know that in calorie per gram degree centigrade, the specific heat of water is 1. Let's say when they are mixed, the final temperature of system is T. Simply write heat given to 1 plus heat given to 2 equals to 0. Heat given to 1, m s delta T, T minus 40, plus heat given to 2, m s delta T should be equal to 0. Now beta here, this becomes 50, multiply it, so you get 50 T minus 400, no, not 400, 15 to 40, 2000, plus 50 T minus 1000 equals to 0. So here you get 100 T equals to 2000 plus 1000, that is 3000. So the final temperature comes out to be equal to 30 degrees centigrade. So that m1 t1 plus m2 t2 plus m3 t3, the weighted mean method works only for same specific heat. That's why this method is important. Let's solve this example. 40 gram of water at 20 degrees centigrade is mixed with 60 gram of water at 80 degrees centigrade. But during the mixing process, 2000 calorie of heat is dissipated to the surrounding. Find the final temperature of mixture. So now here is the point where that method helps. The heat given to 1 plus heat given to 2 equals to actual heat given. Here you can see the sample A of 40 gram has got initial temperature of 20 degrees centigrade. The sample B of 60 gram has got initial temperature of 80 degrees centigrade. Once they are mixed, let's say the final temperature is T. You will say that the heat given to 1 equals to m, specific heat of water, 1 calorie per gram degree centigrade, delta T, always final minus initial, plus heat given to 2, m s delta T, always final minus initial. This is a heat given to both. This heat given to both has to equal to the actual heat given to system. And the heat of 2000 calorie goes out of the system. So here you will write kids minus 2000. So on solving this, you can cancel out 0, 0 and 0. So you will get 40 minus 80 plus 60 minus 240, 8 into 6 is 48 beta, minus 480 equals to minus 200. So bring this 80 and 480 to right hand side. So you get 10T equals to 480 plus 80, that becomes 560, 560 minus 200, that becomes 360. So the final temperature comes out to be 36 degree centigrade. One more example. 3 liquids A, B, C are at temperature of 20 degrees centigrade, 40 degrees centigrade and 80 degrees centigrade respectively. When A and B are mixed, the final temperature is 25. When A and C are mixed, the final temperature is 50. Then what will be the final temperature if B and C are mixed? So here you have got 3 samples, A, B, C. A has got initial temperature, solution, of 20 degrees centigrade. B has got initial temperature of 40 degrees centigrade and C has got initial temperature of 80 degrees centigrade. When A and B are mixed, these two guys are mixed, the final temperature comes out to be 25 degrees centigrade. When A and C are mixed, the final temperature comes out to be 50 degrees centigrade. So what will be the final temperature if B and C are mixed? So how to approach this question? Quite easy. You'll have to write the same equation, heat given to 1 plus heat given to 2 equals to actual heat given, and if no heat is given, write it as 0. So first case, let's say when A and B are mixed, the final temperature is 25. The change in temperature of A will be plus 5. while the change in temperature of B will be minus 15. Change in temperature is final temperature minus initial. So 25 minus 40 gives you minus 40. Let's say the mass of A is Ma, the specific heat of A is Sa. Similarly, mass of B is Mb and specific heat of B is Sb. So for this case, these mixing of A and B, you can write first equation MaSa times delta T, that is 5, plus MbSb times delta T, MbSb times delta T, and here the delta T is minus 15, has to be equal to 0. Bring this term to right, cancel out 5 and 5. So you get mass of A into specific heat of A equals to 3 times the mass of B into specific heat of B. Now, similarly, let's take it as equation number 1. Similarly, we can write equation for mixing of A and C. When A and C mixed, the change in temperature of A is 25, the change in temperature of C is minus 30. So you will write MaSa delta T 50 minus 20 plus 30 plus MC mass of C into specific heat of C into delta T minus 30 has to be equal to 0. So from here 30 cancel out, bring it to right hand side, you get the second equation MaSa equals to McSc. This is your second equation. Our mission is to find the final temperature if B and C are mixed. Let's say the final temperature if B and C are mixed is T. So if B and C are mixed, we will write equation as MbSb into T minus 40 plus McSc into T minus 80 equals to 0. Now how to solve this? See kids, in place of MbSb you can write MaSa by 3. In place of McSc you can write MaSa. The purpose of writing this is that then we can cancel out MaSa. So in place of MbSb, write Ma, mass of A into specific heat of A by 3 into T minus 40 plus in place of McSc, write MaSa, so you get mass of A into specific heat of A into T minus 80 equals to 0. Cancel out MaSa, multiply each term by 3, so you get T minus 40 plus 3T minus 240 equals to 0. So here you will get kids 4T equals to 280, and if 4T is 280, T comes out to be 280 by 4, that is 140 by 2, that comes out to be 75 degree centigrade. Next question. An electric heater of 1 kilowatt is being used to heat half kg of water. The heater dissipates 160 joule of heat to the surrounding per second. Find the time required to raise the temperature of water from 20 degrees centigrade to 80 degrees centigrade. So here we have got heater. The power input of heater is 1 kilowatt. 1 kilowatt is nothing but 1000 watt. 1000 watt is nothing but 1000 joule per second. So the rate of heat input is 1000 joule per second. This heater also dissipates out 160 joule per second. This means that the energy input every second 1000 joule of energy enters the heater, out of which 160 joule gets dissipated. So how much energy is stored inside the water per second? So energy retained by water per second has to be equals to input minus output, that is 840 joule. So every second this water retains 840 joule of energy. We need to find how much time it will take for water to heat up from 20 to 80. First of all, let's find out energy required to raise temperature from 20 to 80. Energy required or heat required has to be equal to ms delta T. The mass of water given in the question is half kg. Specific heat of water we have learned that is 4.2 kilojoule per kg degree centigrade. 4.2 kilojoule can be taken as 4200 joule into delta T, ms delta T, and the change in temperature is 60. So the amount of heat required is this much. The heat supplied per second is 840 and the amount of heat required is this much. So the time taken for temperature to increase from 20 to 80 is the amount of heat required upon the heat supplied per second. So when you do this, cancel out 1 0 with 1 0. Here 42 and 84, you get a 2. Here you get this becomes 600 by 4. That comes out to be 150 second. And 150 second is 2 minutes 30 seconds.